welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lisa Uncoven. Okay, I'm going to be chairing this debate. This debate's been organised by Bristol and District Anti-Cuts Alliance. Okay, as you well know, this is a big debate and it's about the cuts and whether the cuts are necessary. Okay, some of you who are sitting here right now may be directly affected by the cuts, and some of you might know of some people who are actually affected by the cuts. And if none of those categories actually apply to you right now, 4 years down the line, okay, you're going to be falling into one of those categories, okay? At present, the government wants to cut 1.6 million jobs, okay? That's an astonishing amount. We have two speakers here today who are going to be speaking about whether cuts are necessary. Before I actually continue, I just want to say that I know some of you are a bit emotional about the cuts and what's been happening at present. So I just want to say there's no presence for heckling at this moment in time, okay? Additionally, I just want to say that these two speakers are here because of the debate, and so in order for the debate to be successful, we need to hear both sides, okay? Right, okay, just quickly want to tell you about the schedule, okay? So the speakers are going to be talking for roughly about 10 minutes approximately, okay? And then afterwards I'm going to open it up to the floor so that you guys can actually participate and contribute and also ask questions. And then they're going to be summing up and they're also going to be kind of like answering some of your questions then. But we are going to be quite snappy when it comes to questions and contributions because we've got time constraints, okay? So the speaker that we have today is Huw Williams, who is part of the Bristol and District Anti-Cuts Alliance for Hallfield. And we've got Charlotte Leslie here, who is the Conservative MP for Hallfield. Okay? So Huw Williams is going to talk now for 10 minutes, and then it's going to be Charlotte Leslie.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to start with a quote, and the quote goes as follows. The Conservative Party will never reform the banks and rebuild our economy because they are completely in the hot to the City of London. They are the party of choice for rich bankers. They will never change Britain for the better because they are only interested in helping people at the top. Nick Clegg, 3 days before the last general election. On this occasion, I will say Nick Clegg was right. He seemed to have a conversion similar to St. Paul on the road to Damascus a few days later. What we are facing is the biggest assault this country has seen on working people's living standards, on the welfare state and the provision for the most vulnerable in society since the 1920s-1930s. Mervyn King, Governor of the Bank of England, supporter of the cuts, said as much last week. He said that in 2011, wages will go back to levels of 2005. This has not been achieved since the 1920s. You look at the BMA, one of their top consultants, not a friend of the left and the movement against the cuts, he said the following, that actually the Tory plan for the NHS will roll back the National Health Service to pre-1945 situation. We are going back in time, and we're going to go back very, very quickly if these cuts aren't stopped. And when you listen to Clegg, and you listen to Osborne, and you listen to Cameron, you would think the real problem in this world, the real problem in Britain, the real problem with this economy, and what has happened, is a group of people called public sector workers. The way in which they talk, you would think it was teachers, nurses, home helps, tax inspectors have caused this crisis. Let's be absolutely clear where the blame lies. It blames either the bankers, the merchant bankers, the rich. They are the people who have caused this disastrous situation in which we are being told that we have no alternative. When you look at it, the figure came out of the Audit Office in 2009, right at the end of 2009. The cost of being at the banks is estimated at £850 billion. They put in, and the Tories didn't disagree with it, they weren't in office at the time, they put in £850 billion to prop up bank after bank after bank. And then we're told, no, there's no money left, there's no alternative. If you're living in a denial situation that you're against cuts, you're in cloud cuckoo land, you're told. Well, here's an interesting thing. We're also told we're in it together. We're all in it together. I don't see it, is the honest truth. When I read that the FTSE top 100, the chief executives, their pay last year went up by 55%. The Times richest 100 list last year, increase in wealth of 30%. We have a Duke of Westminster worth £7,000 million. Philip Green of Topshop, £4,330 million. And Philip Green is the person who got a bonus of 1.3 billion, gave it to his wife, she lives in Monaco, and saved himself £285 million. He didn't pay in tax. That's what happened. And what did the Tories do? They invited Mr. Philip Green to sit on a panel to discuss the future of the welfare reforms. That was his reward. He tax fiddled effectively. He avoided the tax, and he gets a reward. How can it be that Vodafone are let off £6 billion tax? How can Bunce last year only pay 3% of their profit in tax? How can Barclays just pay 2%? Have 181 subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands. Bob Diamond, when he was interviewed in the Select Committee, didn't even know how many banks they had registered in the Cayman Islands. He couldn't name the figure. But they also know that Bob Diamond did rather well. He got a bonus of 6.2 million. But he's probably a bit jealous. There are two others in Barclays. Jerry Dell this year, £14.3 million bonus. Here's a good name, Richie. He's a Barclay man. He got 14 million. He's rather appropriately named. RBS, state-owned, bailed out. Hester, £7.7 million bonus this year. That's what we've got. And what I'm interested is, when I hear the Tories say there's no money, how come when there's problems in the Irish banks, within 24 hours, Osborne goes on telly and says, actually, we're going to give 7 billion. We're going to pump in 7 billion to the Irish banks. And when asked why, his reply was, they're good mates. You help out a mate. As if it was someone coming around, they'd run out of sugar. The reality wasn't about helping out a mate at all. It was that the Irish banks owed the British banks large amounts of money. They were worried the Irish banks were going to go under. That would have a terrible impact on the British banks, and therefore the 7 billion to the Irish banks was in effect another bailout of the British banks. And you have to ask why we got ourselves into this situation. Because the big financial institutions are after one thing and one thing only, profit. And when they saw profit rates in the property bubble in America, in Britain, all across Europe and many parts of the world, they thought, that's it, a quick, rich, get scheme. We can give mortgage after mortgage after mortgage to people. It doesn't matter if they can't pay. If they only last 2-3 years, why? Because we'll have 2-3 years mortgage of them, but the property is ours. And we all know property prices keep going up and up and up. And the reality is, it came to a crashing halt. And because they were chasing they were looking for massive profits, that's why we got into this trouble. The truth is about the deficit, it isn't unprecedented. 1945 to the mid-60s, the deficit was larger. And in that time, we built a national health service, we expanded education, we built the biggest programme of council housing, actually under a mini-Tory government in that time, a massive expansion of social housing. That's what was happened in those times. And you look at the level of wealth in this society. You know there's a lie going around. There's a lie, there's no money. The problem in Britain isn't that there's no money. There is huge money. There is enormous amounts of money. The wealth in Britain is unimaginable to people like us. The problem isn't if there's money, it's who's got it. That's the problem. I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example. One of the examples I'll give you. There was a study done, and it said that for all the wealth, the top 1% own 70% of the wealth in this country. And we have kids in poverty, we have old people in poverty, we have a Bristol City Council, who I just can't believe have charged an increase of 30% for Meals on Wheels. I'll tell you what it'll mean for many working class pensioners. It'll mean they will go without a hot meal. That's the reality of these costs. They are going to suffer because they're saying there is no alternative. Tax relief for the richest 1% in this country. Do you know how much it costs the Treasury? Tax relief for the richest 1%, the super rich. It's £10 billion a year. Corporation tax. We're told there's no money. We've got to up the VAT. We've got to up VAT. We've got to raise it. When it comes to corporation tax, they're cutting it. There's going to be a 4% cut in corporation tax in the next 4 years. 4.5 billion every year will be lost to the Treasury. You add up the figures, and when it comes to tax evasion and tax avoidance, you add up the figures, And the minimum that people say it is about 30 billion. The maximum is 100 billion. Whatever we can say, it is well over 100 billion over the course of 4 years is avoided and evaded and fiddled by the super rich. And the truth is, there is no desire in this government to actually tackle that. And I'll tell you why. When you look at the figures, 52% of donations to the Conservative Party are from the City of London. Now, I know these people, I don't know these people, business people, I certainly don't mix with them. They don't hang around here, right? But I tell you what, those people always tell you, if you pay money, you get something in return. You get something for your money. And 57 people in the city who each individually donated over 50,000, they got something. Membership of the Conservative Leaders Club. One-to-one chats with Cameron, one-to-one chats with Osborne, nice drinks parties, nice time at the golf club. And I tell you what, money, it walks, it gets into political power. And that is why the Tory, they are part of the problem in doing this. And I'm told I'm not living in the real world. I'll tell you my job, I'm a social worker. I see families in terrible situations, people who are mentally ill in awful situations, driven into poverty and desperation, worried about the benefits and the attacks that they're facing. And then I find out, I've got loads of, but I'll have to skip one, but this is my favourite. In terms of, MPs, let me give you one of them. We're told, of course, live in the real world. John Gummer, remember the chap who made his kid eat the funny beef? Right, John Gummer. He got £1,666 paid to him in 2009. Do you know what he listed? A 20-minute phone call to a company. A 20-minute phone call, and he gets £1,666. Francis Maud, £36,700. Oh, from Barclays. He worked for him. He did 6 days. 6 days. These people are loaded. These people are loaded. John Hutton, let's be fair, the Labour Party were up to it as well. John Hutton, you know him? Yeah. He keeps getting paid £5,500 for 3 days' work for civil solicitors, going to a private dinner and doing a little speech. £5,500 for 3 days he gets, quite regularly. And he's the man who says local government workers, which the average pension is under 5,000, should be attacked. Last point. Don't believe that they don't notice the government, the people in power, that they don't notice if there's resistance. I work for South Gloss Council, and I saw a Tory councillor Twitter. And during he twittered on the day the budget was set, and there were cuts coming through, he twittered the following. Oh, no protest. We're obviously not cutting enough. We're not cutting enough. We're going to stick the boot in even more. So I tell you what, March the 26th, there is going to be a massive demonstration in London, and everyone is ready to join. And I'll tell you this for nothing. If they can get rid of Mubarak in Cairo, if they can get rid of the rulers in Tunisia, and I tell you what, I hope they get rid of them in Saudi Arabia. The rotten Saudi royal family who have butchered people with armed, we have sold to them. We have sold to them. I'll tell you what, I think the only person on the government payroll who seems his job is safe is Prince Andrew. That seems the only one who's safe if you're a nurse. Be worried. Home help, teacher, you name it, they're coming for us. But we have got to resist. There is no time to put the head in the sand anymore. We are going to March the 26th, and that is the launch pad for massive resistance.